Imagine an entire country slowly sinking beneath the waves. Homes swallowed, graves washed away, and a people forced to choose between abandoning their homeland or watching it disappear forever. This is not science fiction. This is Kiribati, a drowning paradise in the Pacific. It is low tide on Tarawa, the heart of Kiribati, a scattered island nation in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. On this narrow strip of land, life begins and ends with the sea. Ta'atata and his 3 sons wade far out into the reef. Their bare feet sink into wet sand as they search for coral stones. Once, long ago, they could collect these from the beach just steps away from their home. But those days are gone. The beaches are eroding, swallowed by the advancing ocean. They carry the coral not for decoration, but for survival. Piece by piece, they rebuild a wall that keeps their home of 12 people standing against the waves. 10 years ago, they began stacking these stones, shaping a barrier. But each year the sea grows bolder. Storms strike harder. Waves crash higher. When the tide rises with strong winds, Tatat explains, the water climbs all the way to the wall. It smashes against it and sprays across our house. We build higher, because if we don't, we lose everything. Around them, countless other walls have already fallen. Their defenses are temporary in a battle against an ocean that never rests. Scientists warn that in just a few decades, even the strongest coral walls will be useless. The rising seas will drown this land no matter how high they build. Kiribati is one of the lowest lying countries on Earth. Its atolls, fragile rings of sand and reefs scattered across thousands of kilometers, rise just 2 meters above sea level on average. From above, the islands appear like delicate threads drawn across endless blue. From below, they are surrounded by an ocean that is slowly, but relentlessly reclaiming them. More than half of Kiribati's 100,000 people live on Tarawa, but the question on everyone's mind is, for how much longer? For Kiribati, climate change is not a theory. It is daily life. Floods creep further inland. Drinking water turns salty. Crops wither. Storm surges strike with increasing violence. Here, the question is not whether the nation will survive, but how. The government knows this. Since 2010, Joy Iding has served as the official climate commissioner. He has watched the changes unfold with growing alarm. We live with contamination, with sanitation problems, with drinking water turning brackish, he explains. And this is only the beginning. Imagine when the seawalls vanish completely, when every king tide floods our land. What then? For some, the answer is unthinkable but inevitable. One day, the people of Kiribati may have to abandon their homeland. The government has already purchased land in Fiji, a future refuge, an ark for a nation facing exile. But for families like Tatata's, life continues as before, even as the tide climbs higher. Each day, they carry their small fishing boat into the sea, a ritual that grows harder as the beach erodes. Once, they had sand stretching wide and flat. Now, rocks pile where sand once lay, and the ocean gnaws at their doorstep. His family has become a symbol of Kiribati's fight. His mother, Mayata, recalls the past. 20 years ago, the sea was far away. Even at high tide, we were safe. We had trees, we had shade, we had peace. We never imagined it would come to this. Her granddaughter, Anna, listens wide-eyed. For her, there has never been a safe Kiribati. She has grown up watching the sea creep closer, swallowing trees, washing over roads. Their access road is now permanently flooded. The family can only leave their property by boat. Yet even as she sees the sea as the enemy, Anna does not speak with hatred. I know other countries are causing this, the Western nations, she says softly, but I do not hate them. I only ask, please stop. Across the atolls, the sea continues its slow conquest. Each storm takes more land. Each tide leaves less behind. And still, the people endure. Kiribati is more than just land and water. It is a culture woven from stories, songs, and ancient ties to the ocean. For centuries, the people here have read the waves like a book, the stars like a map. They are master navigators, descendants of voyagers who once sailed across the Pacific in wooden canoes guided only by wind and constellations. But no star could guide them away from what is happening now. On South Tarawa, where most of the population lives, the changes are visible everywhere. Coconut palms, once lined up in thick rows, have collapsed into the sea, their roots exposed like skeletal fingers. Freshwater wells taste of salt. Children play in puddles left by king tides, tidal waves that now wash into villages several times a year, flooding homes and schools. Mayata, the grandmother from Tatata's family, remembers when coconuts were so plentiful that no one ever worried about food. Now the salt water burns the roots, she says. The trees die and we must buy rice instead. For a nation that has always relied on the land and sea for survival, depending on imported food feels like a loss of independence, a surrender to forces beyond their control. The children, however, adapt quickly. They chase each other barefoot through the flooded roads, splashing in brackish water, their laughter masking the danger beneath. The same puddles that amuse them are breeding grounds for mosquitoes, carrying dengue and chikungunya. Doctors warn that health risks will only grow as the land shrinks and sanitation worsens. Across the lagoon, another family struggles with the same reality. Their homes stand precariously on thin land, protected by a seawall patched together with scrap wood, broken concrete, and discarded tires. Every storm threatens to undo their work. We build in morning, the father explains, and by night the waves have taken it away. We start again the next day. Yet, despite the hardship, there's resilience. The women continue weaving mats from pandanus leaves, sitting in circles beneath what shade remains. The men fish at dawn, casting nets into turquoise waters still abundant with tuna and reef fish. Children sing songs that their ancestors sang, voices rising above the crashing surf. For the people of Kiribati, identity is inseparable from land. Every tree, every reef, every stretch of beach carries meaning. Graves of ancestors lie along the shoreline. Churches and meeting houses mark villages where families have lived for generations. To lose the land is not just to lose property. It is to lose memory, history, and spirit. And so, when international experts speak of relocation, many Kiribati feel a deep unease. The government's purchase of 20 square kilometers of land in Fiji has sparked hope for survival, but also fear. Will they still be Kiribati if they leave Kiribati behind? What becomes of a nation when its land disappears? Yet its people remain. Elders speak of this with heavy hearts. One elder explains, "We are a canoe people. Our ancestors crossed oceans. But this is different. They move by choice. We would move because the sea leaves us no choice." Meanwhile, on the outer islands, life remains close to tradition. But even here, the rising tides are felt. In Abayang, villagers once gathered breadfruit and taro with ease. Today, saltwater intrusion destroys their crops. Women must paddle farther into the lagoon to find clean water. Children carry buckets for kilometers, hauling what little they can. Despite these struggles, the spirit of community holds firm. During floods, neighbors gather to help one another. When homes collapse, families open their doors to shelter those in need. Churches overflow with prayers not only for survival, but for the strength to endure. In the evenings, when the sun sinks into the horizon, life momentarily feels as it once did. Families sit together, eating fish cooked over open fires. Songs echo through the night air. The ocean glimmers under the moonlight, beautiful, calm, deceptive. For in the stillness lies a reminder. This same ocean, once friend and provider, is now the greatest threat to their survival. Kiribati stands at the edge of existence. Scientists warn that within the lifetime of today's children, many islands will vanish beneath the waves. Yet the people continue to live, to hope, to fight for their home. Because Kiribati is not just sand and coral. It is a nation, a memory, a paradise they refuse to surrender. Kiribati's struggle is not just a local battle against the tides. It has become a global symbol, a small nation standing at the front lines of climate change, demanding that the world take responsibility. In international conferences, the country's leaders are often given a microphone, but rarely the power to act. Former President Anodi Tong, one of the most vocal figures in Kiribati's history, has spoken passionately at the United Nations, painting vivid pictures of his homeland drowning. For us, climate change is not about the future, he once declared. It is about survival. It is happening now. His words struck a chord, but they also revealed a painful truth. Nations like Kiribati contribute almost nothing to global carbon emissions, yet they suffer first and hardest. The industrial powers, far across oceans, burn fossil fuels, and the Kiribati pay the price with their land, their homes, their very existence. At home, these speeches trickle back in fragments, heard on radios or old televisions. Families gather to listen, their faces solemn. Some feel proud that their tiny nation can speak on such a stage. Others feel frustration, wondering if words alone can hold back the waves. The Fiji land purchase became a cornerstone of Kiribati's political strategy. Leaders presented it as a migration with dignity plan, a way for future generations to move as a community, not as scattered refugees. Yet, this announcement split the nation. Some believed it was wise preparation. Others saw it as surrender, a message that their homeland was already lost. On Tarawa, a fisherman named Banu voices what many feel. If we leave, who will care for our ancestors' graves? Who will sing our songs? Who will be the guardians of our land when it is gone? His question hangs heavy in the salty air, with no easy answer. Meanwhile, aid agencies and NGOs arrive with promises of help. They bring projects, rainwater tanks, solar panels, sanitation programs. These efforts ease daily struggles, but they cannot stop the sea. Some locals appreciate the assistance. Others whisper that outsiders come for pictures, for reports, for their own reputation. What the people of Kiribati truly need, drastic cuts in global emissions, lies far beyond their shores. And so, diplomacy becomes both a lifeline and a wound. Every conference, every speech, every headline that mentions Kiribati keeps their story alive. Yet, every year that passes without meaningful action deepens a sense of abandonment. Despite this, life on the island continues with rhythms that have endured for centuries. Children practice traditional dances on sandy courtyards, their movements graceful, echoing the steps of ancestors. Elders teach the art of canoe building, carving wood by hand, passing down skills that once connected distant islands across the Pacific. Weddings and church gatherings bring moments of joy, where laughter drowns out the roar of the sea. It is in these moments that Kiribati's resilience shines. Even as the tide rises, even as the world debates their fate in distant halls of power, the people hold on to culture as fiercely as they hold on to land. For them, identity is not negotiable. It cannot be bought or relocated. It is lived every day in songs, prayers, and shared meals. But as international experts warn, the question is no longer whether Kiribati can resist the sea, but whether the world will change fast enough to let them. Scientists predict that by the end of this century, many of the nation's atolls will be uninhabitable. Some say the timeline is shorter, perhaps only decades away. For families like Tatatas, this is not an abstract calculation. It is the wall they rebuild every week, the road they now cross by boat, the trees they watch collapse into the surf. And yet they continue, because to abandon the fight would be to abandon not just their homes, but the spirit of who they are. In Kiribati, the sea is both memory and prophecy. For the older generation, it is remembered as friend, as provider, as the eternal backdrop of island life. For the young, it is something different, an intruder, creeping further inland with every season. Elders like Mayada recall a childhood where the ocean was far away, its roar a distant lullaby. We played beneath coconut trees, she says softly, and the land stretched wide. We never thought it would vanish. To her, the ocean's advance feels like betrayal. The same waters that fed her family now threaten to erase their home. But for children like Anna, her granddaughter, the sea has always been at the door. She has never known a safe shoreline. Her memories are filled with flooded roads, salt-stained crops, and broken seawalls. For her generation, survival is not nostalgia for what once was, but adaptation to what is. This clash between memory and reality defines daily life. At night, when families gather, grandparents tell stories of old voyages, of nights under starlit skies when canoes carry their ancestors to new horizons. Children listen with awe, but they also wonder, Will they be the generation forced onto a final voyage, not discovery but exile? Across the atolls, these contrasts play out in quiet ways. Young men train in fishing, just as their fathers did, yet their catches grow smaller as reefs bleach and fish migrate elsewhere. Young women weave mats, but fewer pandanus trees survive the salt water. Even rituals of celebration, weddings, dances, feasts, now take place with the awareness that the land beneath their feet is shrinking. Teachers in village schools speak of climate change not as theory, but as everyday curriculum. Children draw pictures of houses surrounded by water, of seawalls taller than men, of canoes floating over submerged land. Some write essays imagining life in Fiji. Others dream of studying abroad, returning with skills to help their people. But beneath the learning lies fear, the fear of becoming a nation without a homeland. Scientists who visit Kiribati often speak in numbers. Centimeters of sea level rise, degrees of warming, decades until uninhabitable. For the Kiribati, the numbers mean little compared to the sight of ancestral graves already washing into the sea. In some villages, headstones lean at odd angles, half buried in water. Families whisper prayers at graves that may soon disappear entirely. The spiritual weight of this loss is immense. In Kiribati culture, ancestors are ever present, guiding and protecting. To see their resting places claimed by the ocean feels like erasure both past and future. Yet, even in sorrow, resilience blooms. Youth groups gather plant mangroves along eroded coastlines. Their small hands push seedlings into the mud, hoping roots will hold back the tide. Elders watch proudly, though they know mangroves alone cannot save a nation. Still, the act itself carries meaning, a statement that they will not surrender without trying. And amid the uncertainty, life continues. Weddings are celebrated. Children are born. Songs rise in churches on Sunday mornings. The community holds tightly to joy, even as the sea gnaws at the edges of their world. The younger generation stands at a crossroads. Some vow never to leave, promising to rebuild as long as one patch of land remains. Others dream of new lives abroad, seeking opportunities their islands may never offer. Between them lies the struggle that defines Kiribati today, to hold on to identity while preparing for the possibility of dispersal. Because for the Kiribati, the greatest fear is not just losing land, it is losing each other. A scattered people risk becoming a forgotten people. And so, every decision, every rebuilt seawall, every international plea, every child taught to sing the old songs, carries weight beyond survival. It carries the hope that, even if the land sinks, Kiribati itself will not vanish. The fate of Kiribati is often described as a warning to the world, a front line where the future is already unfolding. Scientists call it a canary in the coal mine, a fragile signal of what larger nations may one day face if climate change continues unchecked. For decades, research ships and environmental teams have visited the islands, measuring tides, testing water salinity, mapping erosion. Their findings are sobering. Sea levels in the Central Pacific are rising faster than the global average. In some places, the land is already sunk by more than 15 centimeters in the last few decades. That may sound small, but here, where the highest point of land is just a few meters above sea level, centimeters are everything. The science paints a clear picture. Even if global warming were halted today, the ocean would continue to rise for centuries. The greenhouse gases already released have set into motion changes that cannot be reversed quickly. For Kiribati, this means time is running out, not in centuries, but in years and decades. What happens when a nation disappears? This question troubles not just the people of Kiribati, but international law itself. The United Nations has never dealt with the legal status of a country without land. If the islands sink beneath the sea, will the nation cease to exist? Will its people lose their citizenship, their flag, their seat at the UN? President Anodi Tong once described this as a moral test of the world. If a nation disappears because of the actions of others, what does that say about humanity? His words resonate far beyond Pacific, but answers remain elusive. Meanwhile, other nations watch closely. The Maldives, Tuvalu, and the Marshall Islands face similar threats. If Kiribati is lost, they fear they may follow. The story of one small Pacific nation could become the story of many, yet the global response remains slow. Climate conferences bring promises, pledges, and declarations. Leaders from powerful countries shake hands and speak of urgency, but emissions continue to rise, fossil fuels continue to burn, and for Kiribati, each year delay is another meter of shoreline lost. Back on the islands, these global debates feel distant. The people care less about parts per million of carbon dioxide and more about whether the next storm will sweep away their home. Still, they listen to the news, hoping for signs that the world is listening. In classrooms, teachers explain the science in simple terms. They show maps of islands shrinking, projections of what may vanish by 2050 or 2100. Children stare silently, then ask questions their teachers struggle to answer. Where will we go? Will we still be Kiribati people if we live in another land? Will we be welcome there? The uncertainty weighs heavily. Migration with dignity, the government's plan, sounds orderly in theory, but in practice, it means families torn apart, communities scattered, identities tested. Will a culture built on ocean navigation, oral traditions, and ancestral land survive when transplanted onto foreign soil? And yet, scientists insist that what happens in Kiribati is not only Kiribati's problem. Rising seas will not stop at the Pacific. From Bangladesh to Miami, from Venice to New York, coastlines around the globe face the same future. Kiribati is not an isolated tragedy. It is a mirror of what is to come. For now, the people continue their fight. Seawalls rise, mangroves are planted, rainwater tanks are filled. Children dance, elders pray, fishermen cast their nets. Life carries on, fragile but defiant. But the question hangs heavier each year. How long can nations stand when the ground beneath it is slipping away? The story of Kiribati is not just about one nation. It is about all nations. The waves that eat away at the sandy shores of Tarawa are the same waves that batter Miami during hurricanes, that creep into Venice during floods, that threaten the lowlands of Bangladesh when monsoons rise higher than ever before. Kiribati is a small nation, but its struggle is enormous because it asks a question the world has not yet answered. When the sea takes away a homeland, what is left of the people? In Europe or North America, climate change is still often debated in abstract terms, percentages, targets, pledges for the year 2050 or 2100. But in the Pacific, the deadlines are written in saltwater stains on the walls of family homes. They are measured in how far children must now walk to find clean drinking water, in how many coconut trees collapse each year, in how many graves are swallowed by the sea. And so, the people of Kiribati live in two worlds at once, the immediate present of daily survival and the distant stage of international diplomacy. When their leaders stand at the United Nations, they carry the weight of an entire nation on the brink of disappearance. Their speeches are often emotional, filled with images of vanishing land and uprooted families. They do not speak only for themselves, but for all small island nations whose voices are easily drowned out by the politics of larger powers. The responses they receive are sympathetic, sometimes even standing ovations. But sympathy cannot stop the tide, and promises, no matter how well-intentioned, mean little when years pass and the waters keep rising. Meanwhile, back in Kiribati, ordinary life continues with extraordinary resilience. The fishermen still go out at dawn, pushing their boats across eroded beaches. The women still gather pandanus leaves to weave mats that will decorate homes that may not stand another decade. Children still play, still laugh, still sing in churches that shake when storms roll in. But beneath the surface of daily life lies an unspoken tension, the knowledge that time is running out. Parents worry about what future their children will inherit. Children wonder if their homeland will exist when they are adults. Elders wonder if their grandchildren will bury them in Kiribati soil or on foreign land. The psychological burden is heavy. To lose a home is one thing. To lose a nation, a culture, an identity, that is something the world has never seen on this scale. And yet, Kiribati refuses to be defined only as a victim. Many Kiribati speak of themselves as warriors, not in battle with weapons, but in battle with indifference. Their survival, they say, will depend not only on seawalls and science, but on dignity, unity, and the strength to keep their identity alive, wherever they may go. The diaspora has already begun. Small communities of Kiribati now live in New Zealand, Australia, and Fiji. They bring with them songs, dances, and the rhythm of island life. But displacement is not the same as migration. Many fear that, once scattered, their unique culture will dissolve into larger societies, remembered only in fragments. Kiribati's leaders have framed their situation as the world's moral test. If humanity allows an entire nation to vanish, what hope is there for justice in the climate crisis? If the most vulnerable are abandoned, who will be protected when larger nations begin to face the same threat? Because make no mistake, what is happening in Kiribati today will happen elsewhere tomorrow. Rising seas do not respect borders. The tide is rising everywhere. And Kiribati is only the beginning. The tide is rising everywhere. And Kiribati is only the beginning. In the Maldives, seawater already laps at luxury resorts built on fragile atolls. In Bangladesh, millions live just a few meters above sea level, where one cyclone could displace entire villages. In Florida and Louisiana, storms grow stronger each year, flooding streets that were never built for oceans pushing inland. From Venice's canals to the coast of Africa, the same story is written in different languages. The water is coming. Kiribati stands as both a victim and a messenger. Its voice is small, but its message echoes loudly. What is happening here will happen elsewhere. The difference is only time. For decades, the world has had warnings, reports, graphs, maps. But perhaps the most powerful warning is not a number on a chart. It is the sight of a grandmother watching the sea wash away her garden. It is the voice of a child asking if she will still be Kiribati when her homeland is gone. It is a fisherman carrying his boat across stones where a beach once lay. These images tell us more than statistics ever could. They tell us about dignity, loss, and the human cost of inaction. And yet, there is hope. Hope and resilience of Kiribati's people, who still sing their songs, dance their dances, and teach their children the ways of their ancestors. Hope in the young, who plant mangroves and dream protecting what little land remains. Hope in the idea that the world, when faced with undeniable truth, can still change course. Kiribati may be small, but it carries a message for all of humanity. The climate crisis is not distant, not abstract, not in the future. It is here. It is now. And what happens to Kiribati will one day happen to us all, unless we act. So as the waves continue to rise against these fragile islands in the Pacific, the question remains, will the world rise to meet the challenge, or will we allow a nation, a culture, and a people to drown before our eyes? The answer lies not only in the halls of power, but in the choices each of us makes. Because in the end, the story of Kiribati is not just their story. It is our story. Sparkles if you found this documentary powerful. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. And please, share your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think the world should do for nations like Kiribati? Let's talk about it.